But the myth that there's automatic intimacy.
Say more. What does that mean? What does automatic intimacy mean?
Meaning, saying like that you should know that what you're doing. Like, you don't have to talk to the person. You should know what they want in and out of the bedroom. Welcome to Startup Spouses, where we help entrepreneurial couples take their relationships from mediocre to mind-blowing. I'm Marie, an intimacy coach.
I'm Adam. I am a business coach.
So, good news.
Good news.
Yes. What is your good news?
You want me to start? Okay. Wow. For me, we just had a great 4th of July holiday, spending some time with each other and our family. We didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't have to deal with crazy people. Happy birthday, America, for 250 years. But celebrating wise, it's, blowing stuff up is probably, maybe we've evolved a little bit past that. I don't know. Or maybe we should have. Clearly we haven't. But I know I'm in the minority there of thinking that, hey, maybe we shouldn't blow shit up. But it was fun to watch fireworks from our backyard under the where actual legitimate pyrotechnics were setting them off at our local park. And so we got to see those from our backyard, which was nice. And then, experienced that. And we actually made our own fireworks, which are definitely more approved.
Yes, definitely.
So that was good news personally. I think professionally, we just got a lot of, really cool stuff in the pipeline for our brand, and, upcoming, just teasing a little brand refresh that is at the starting point in the making to make this brand that we now call Startup Spouses, which will soon to be called something else, something a little more aligned. There's something exciting there happening, which is, our professional good news.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What about you? So
professionally, we also, on the 4th of July, we took advantage of the weekend and we did our quarterly, which I always get super excited. I never thought I would be super excited about a meeting, but I feel like the way we do it makes it so much easier for me in my brain that doesn't feel overwhelmed.
Yeah. Say more about that, because I'm interested to hear why. What changed for you in terms of that? Because I know a lot of people reject having a meeting with their spouse, especially a full day quarterly business meeting.
Well, I think a lot of fear goes into the fact that people feel that their spouse, especially in a type of personality, I won't name who is that in the group, but she's
talking about me.
Will feel that the other person needs to live up to where they're at. And usually the person who's not in a personality feels kind of like not up to the caliber of the other person, and that they feel like they fall a little bit short. I hate to say that. And I know that was internal messaging on my part,
right, to
feel that way, I'm behind. And I think the way you expressed it in the meeting that we had, or excuse me, the talk that we had, that somebody's like, how do you keep your spouse accountable? You're like, you don't. You keep yourself accountable. And I said this last time, it was like you cheerleaded me on. You didn't go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't hit your goals, Marie. You're like, hey, it's okay. We learn from these things. If we don't make it, you're very calm and well put together. And so that gave me the safety to start reaching for bigger goals, because of the fact that we have these step-by-step processes that we do.
Yeah.
So I think that is where I feel excited when we have these goals now and these meetings, especially our quarterly, because we get to set new goals, and I get to get super fired up for the next 3 months that we have. A lot of change,
right?
Very cosmetic, but I think there's a lot of that will reflect a lot of internal change that we've done in the last several months.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's I mean, yeah, cosmetic for sure, but it's going to be also much more aligned, much more clear, much more in depth on how we're helping entrepreneur couples, specifically with the right set of frameworks to strengthen that relationship first and strengthen the business within it. So, I mean, the best return on investment we could possibly offer with this product and this podcast and this platform is going to be building community. It's going to be building systems that'll return millions of dollars to a business's bottom line, and years of wonderful 10 out of 10 relationship to a relationship if couples are willing to do the right set of work.
Exactly.
We know this, and we've studied it. We've done the work. We've done interviews. We've done all that. So a lot of that great stuff is coming, including interviews with other experts in the fields of sexuality, business, relationships, psychology. All of those things are coming to this show, and I'm really excited.
Yes.
I think that's something to be really excited about. And this quarter is the launching pad for that. Yep.
Yes. And with that all being said, personally, I have been able to set a time in the morning for myself, and I get to sit outside. I meditate, I journal, I get that space, and sometimes I will show you what I get to look at. My backyard is to the lake in the backyard.
You showing other people your backyard?
Yes, I'm showing everyone my backyard, and so very personal. But it leaves me. It sets me up for the day. So I get really excited about summertime when I get to sit out there and enjoy my mornings, just for myself. So that's exciting for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good news. So let's move on.
Yeah. So I thought we could take this opportunity today to debunk a myth.
Uh-oh. Mythbusters.
I remember that show. I love that show. I think I like put it on for the kids,
Yeah.
and for me at the same time. But the myth that there's automatic intimacy.
Say more. What does that mean? What does automatic intimacy mean?
Meaning, saying like that you should know that what you're doing. Like, you don't have to talk to the person. You should know what they want. In and out of the bedroom, you should know what turns them on. I feel like this messaging has played its part in what we called the rom-coms of the 90s. Is there's no consent talk. Everything is just, it's just fireworks and chemistry, and it's like bam, and everything just fits into place in and out of the bedroom, and you're making out, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're done, and you're both happily satisfied. Yeah.
So let me make sure I understand here, like the problem is that, so going into a relationship, we feel like we should just be understood for who we are, that all of our needs should just immediately be understood, and that if wrong assumptions are made about what we want or what we desire in intimacy and in communication and all that stuff, then we should take that personally and all of that kind of stuff, that intimacy, sex, communication, all that stuff should happen spontaneously, automatically, without any kind of prompting or intentionality behind it.
Yeah.
Is that what am I understanding the problem?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I think that's the messaging we have grown up learning about, that we should know what we want.
Yeah. So let me take a step back from that then and ask you this, from the intimacy standpoint then. How should we be normalizing, oh my gosh, this is a leading and loaded question, but should we be normalizing the conversations around intimacy, the scheduling around intimate time, all of those details that we once thought would take away the romance because now we're having to dig in? Should we be normalizing those conversations?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
All right. Yeah. Good.
I think that it's perfectly normal to schedule it.
Yeah.
And it goes back to those dating. You knew if you were going to go out, I was going to go out on a date with you. I knew it was going to happen, what I wanted to happen at least.
Yeah.
So I was prepared for that.
So you knew what you wanted to have happen. Let's go back to that time then. Back to when
Oh,
we
no.
were young, we were dating.
No.
And dating we use loosely. We were getting drunk and hooking up, likely, right?
Hey.
Hey, what? Is that isn't that what we were doing?
It just seems so unromantic that way.
It was very unromantic, and yeah, let's face it, it was. But like going back to those dating days, right? How, what did you assume, and what were your feelings when those assumptions weren't met?
That's a good question. Like, I think it goes under that assumption that if you were a match for me, you would already know how to be with a woman. Like, let's take for instance, kissing. Okay, some people will say somebody's a bad kisser.
Yeah.
Like, let's peel that apart for a second. If we may, somebody's a bad kisser. How do you know somebody's a bad kisser?
I mean, you have to kiss them, right?
Well, yeah, or somebody told you they were a bad kisser, correct?
Yeah.
But how people are different. People like different things.
Right.
So if you don't like somebody who's all teeth kissing you, then, or they're going super fast,
Yeah.
you're just going to go, oh, well, they're a bad kisser, so therefore we're not compatible?
Yeah.
I mean,
mean,
if we think back, we thought that was a perfectly fine answer.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of, I don't know if this is true for women, but there was a lot of pressure on men
Yes.
to just kind of know what women wanted. And I know the running joke is, oh, he couldn't find the clitoris if, like, for whatever reason, like, right? You can't, that's always the running joke.
Yeah.
But in sex education, nobody taught us where the clitoris was. Nobody taught us that. Not when we were going to school. We didn't talk about that because that implied women's pleasure, and we didn't talk about women's pleasure.
Well, to be fair, they
Yeah.
didn't start talking about the clitoris till the late 1990s.
Right.
So you're off the hook for that one.
Well, not anymore. But I mean, to that point, that there was still a lot of pressure to yeah, you've got to be a great lover and all this kind of stuff. And respect respect that, like, all women do not want sex at all, which was the assumption, right? Because we didn't communicate about that. Yeah. And all of this kind of conversation around, so that there's a lot of pressure, on men, and a lot of, like, bad apples within, obviously the male community, because there were those that were very aggressive, those who didn't seek consent, those who attempted to manipulate to get you to have sex, those who were just only concerned with their pleasure and nothing else.
Yeah.
And so that was I think that obviously tainted the pool, so to speak, of for lots of men, and obviously not having the consent conversations, those kinds of things really were difficult.
We're not really taught the consent conversations as well.
Right. Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, what are you talking about? Like, even now, it's like, what do you talk about when you're talking about consent? What questions are you asking to your partner?
Yeah.
In the case of, are you talking about what you like? Are you talking about what you don't like? Are you, and those two both should be had in the consent conversation, not just, I don't like this, because if you say I don't like this, where is the person supposed to go?
It's a boundary, but it's not a desire. I mean, I think the consent conversation has, like, boundaries and desires. I think if we can relate it to, like, kind of a business discussion, I mean,
Sexy.
I know, but I mean, like, well, when you're, but people will say that consent isn't, like, the consent conversation isn't sexy, but It can be.
Oh, it is.
But like just like an exciting business conversation where you're brainstorming ideas and stuff like that. You know, a lot of those conversations when you're talking about strategy, when you're in your quarterly meetings or your weekly meetings, you're having essentially alignment meetings, which is what a consent conversation is. It's an alignment discussion, right? You want to align around these things, around what's good, what's bad, and you have to have those conversations. And I think weirdly, it's like we're conditioned to know that yes, you have to get consent, but we don't go deep enough to know that when you're in a committed relationship, part of that consent involves a discussion around those wants and desires and getting real clear
Yes.
on that, just like in a strategy meeting, because it's not going to be spontaneous. It's not going to be automatically, hey, I know what you like. I know how to kiss you. I know how to do this, because I could spend 20 plus years kissing you a certain way and you could hate it. And you could just tell me that you hate kissing. But in reality, you just don't like kissing me because we never talked about what you like in that matter.
Yes.
Or anything else, right? So let me ask you this then about our connection and how we connect and how we have these conversations now that we like know that we have to have intentionality behind it. So we know that it's not automatic, right? So intimacy is not automatic. We have to do something to prompt it.
Yes.
The consent talk is one thing, but like how do we incorporate that into our rhythms of relationship when we're working, when we're building a business, when maybe we're partners with our spouse? Like what is the solution there?
Are you talking about how to have these consent talks? Are you?
Well, I think the consent talks aside, like, I mean, yes, consent is important, but we have to get to the point where we're actually having the conversations and recognizing that it's not automatic. It's not going to be spontaneous. You're not going to spontaneously just erupt into a passionate lovemaking, like in the midst of your workday when everything's going wrong. I know.
You just like start making out. Like I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
when like there's people who argue, and then all of a sudden they start making out. Like,
Yeah.
and then everything gets shoved off the.
Have you ever seen that happen in real life?
No,
Have you
but
ever
I
just
want
like
to
been
have
on?
that.
Have you ever witnessed people like arguing, like ah, and then all of a sudden they just start making out? Have you ever witnessed that in your entire life?
No, but that sounds like a fun role playing idea.
It is, yeah. Maybe we could take that to a nearby hotel and just like have that outburst and like have that. Maybe I don't know. That's a interesting kink unlocked, Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I guess so. In that spirit, let's just say if it ever happens, it's rare. That spontaneous kind of like pent up sexual tension. No, typically during the course of our workday and our lives and just dealing with all the shit we have to deal with, we're caught up in our nervous systems, and when our nervous systems are activated, just like our primitive brains, like will tell us that like, hey, we're always on alert. We're not looking to mate when we're always on alert.
Exactly.
So then what, so then what is the solution there to the fact that, okay, intimacy is not going to be automatic. It's not going to be spontaneous. If you're A-type, we're driven entrepreneurs, we're building a business together. How do we build intimacy into our rhythms?
It's building it into it. It's like scheduling the time together.
Right.
Meaning, maybe it's you have these conversations, you go out to eat, or I wouldn't say go to a concert, any place loud, some place where you can have a conversation about the understanding what your partner likes and what you like. Meaning, I like that you like to have these conversations and like get really deeply connected in our talks.
Right.
So it's great when we have these long conversations. I mean, it's very similar to what we're doing right now. Is we're having these conversations and we're looking each other in the eye, and that really gets you going too.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, because now it's about understanding like our primary style of intimacy.
Yeah.
So that was one that like took us a while to understand, because Yeah, my I think one of the key styles of intimacy that I like that I gravitate toward is that intellectual intimacy where we're connected on a brain to brain level, where we're able to have those deep conversations that energizes me, that connects me to you. And I feel like and is this a true statement that intimacy is really all about a building of connection with somebody else, like a deep level of connection.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
It's into me you see. You get to, I want to share a part of me with you.
Right.
And if you receive it well, then I feel special.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's important that having those conversations and getting that validation from another person is important.
Yeah. So understanding the type of intimacy style that somebody gravitates toward. I like intellectual intimacy. I like that conversation. And that's not to say that that's the only thing. I mean, I love the physical intimacy, obviously, but I love the intellectual stimulation of conversation,
Yes.
like depth of conversation. What other types of intimacy are there? What does intimacy mean, basically? Like, what are we talking about there?
I think you said it pretty well about connecting with another person on a deep level.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable, having that space to share with another person. Here, it's basically you're sharing your life with somebody. See, it's having somebody acknowledge that part of you.
Right.
And that's really important because, like, if you say you did something well, like you at work, you got another client. What makes it special is you get to share that with me. Like,
Yeah.
you look at what I did, yay, and we get to celebrate together.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of the connection right there, your intellectual connection right there.
Yeah.
It's to be seen and heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also just that there's not shame involved in it, that you're celebrated.
Right. No, it's good. So, and then, no, and then, so what types of intimacy are there? Like we talked about emotional intimacy. I know there's physical intimacy.
Yes.
Does that include sex?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what else? Like, is there any other kinds of intimacy that we see?
I mean, mental or psychological and then physical touch is
Yeah.
important.
Right.
So
those are the two primary ways that it kind of shows up within, like, the connection is physical or emotional or intellectual, those kinds of things. Yeah. And how do we understand that about our partner? Like, what they want? Like, what's that like, how do we have that conversation with a partner? That maybe we haven't had that conversation before. How do you start to, like, understand that?
about the person,
Yeah.
I would say that going back to when we were first dating, or the other people who were just first dating, you would pretty much show up on your best behavior is pretty much what you would do.
Right.
And you would listen intently and you would follow them and what they were saying, and you were paying attention to them and they felt seen and heard. I feel that that's the most important thing within a relationship, is to be, once that starts falling off, like you are not listening to each other or seeing each other and celebrating, I think that's an indication that the intimacy is kind of broken right there, and that that needs some repair. For me, physical touch is really important to me. It makes me feel safe, and it also plays into that part of my ADHD where it kind of is calming for me to be touched too. Like, it's saying, stay in your body, stay out of your head, because I'm always top heavy, and especially throughout the day when you're doing a lot of intellectual work.
Yeah.
And I'm not really in my body, so touch grounds me into that space too. Like when I talk to my son, I will touch him on the shoulder because of the fact that I want his attention.
Right.
And sometimes you're up here and people are talking to you, you don't get that. So for me personally, having that groundingness to be like, oh, okay, where are we?
Right.
So
Right.
that is a great place, because part of me, when we're in that space, is just thinking too much all the time. And so touch is a great way to ground.
Yeah. So touching
And be in the present moment.
Yeah, and I think it touches on a good on an important point too, is that there's the transition between work mode and intimacy mode, and I think this is where scheduling becomes really important, because even if it sounds unromantic to schedule intimacy, whether it's intellectual or physical or emotional, whatever type of intimacy we're talking about, get it on the schedule, because it is not automatic. So therefore, if you're expecting it to happen spontaneously, it's never going to happen. So you have to get it on the calendar at some point. And that includes like the two elements of making sure all of those are met: physical, emotional, and psychological. That way, you're connecting on all those levels in the relationship outside of the business. So transition into that comes from the idea that when you're in business mode, or when you're in non-playful mode or non-intimate kind of feeling mode, and shit's happening throughout your day, you're not going to be like wanting to like just immediately jump right into this spontaneous like sexual activity, or anything like that. Take some time to know your body, know what transitions you into that moment of like being playful. Like, take a few deep breaths if that's for you. Exercise, go take a shower, play some music, whatever it is for you, because it is very highly individual. Know yourself first. Know what the intimacy style that you gravitate toward, because that may be the easier one to slip into. It's easier for me to slip out of work mode and into like conversational, intellectual intimacy than it is to slip into physical intimacy. It's really difficult for me to be like in my head about work and then all of a sudden like feel touch and have that intimacy connection. That just doesn't happen for me. That's not to say I don't like touch, because once I'm in that mode, then yeah, it's on. I love the touch, but it's almost like if I'm in work mode and somebody touches me, there's a bristle reaction because of like, I'm in very much like a zone of this, but I can slip into intellectual intimacy and start having those conversations a little easier with a little transition. Yeah. So I know my path. Know your path. You can communicate that to your spouse, and then you can start to align around that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And being like just that aspect of really knowing each other and wanting to increase your willingness to partake and play.
Yeah.
So I know that about you. So I always want to meet your needs in that way, so that then you can be turned on. And then that relates to my needs, to wanting to be touched too.
Yeah.
So if we are meeting each other's needs and we know that about each other, then we can easily ask questions. It's like, what does that look for you? For a while I had to ask, because I did not know.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean intellectually? What are we talking about? I need to know what subject we are talking about. Is that something that I like? And I know for a while we got frustrated with each other too.
Well, yeah, because we didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant either.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you say intimacy and I don't know what that means, I don't know what intellectual means. I just say I like to, I don't know, like talking and like, this sort of thing. I had to figure it out too. And that's something I think that gives you the, like it's part of the grace, right?
Yeah.
So is there a level of grace we have to give each other when we're learning of these things about ourselves?
Yes. I mean, it just goes down to getting curious, not only for your partner, but for yourself, of how that looks. And also it can change.
Yeah.
Even time of day, even the stress level. what intimacy could mean for that a person, you know? But like having that time to explore that and not just be like, like worried about, oh, I just don't want to have sex tonight too.
Right.
Like people think of scheduling it, oh, then I'm going to have to force myself to have sex when I'm so stressed out. And I was like, no, let's slow it down and just spend time together and explore what that looks like. So I hate to say that we're just scheduling that time to have that exploration and to see maybe, hey, like even afterwards, we call it like aftercare. What worked for you in that moment? What did not work for you in that moment?
Interesting. Say more about aftercare, because I feel like that's an important part of intimacy too.
So, in the world of BDSM and kink, especially with impact play, there's this word called aftercare, and afterwards you are trying to understand how the scene or the impact was for them. I mean, you have safety words, but it also in turns like what worked for them in the moment, what didn't work for them in the moment, like so that you can get more in tuned to what felt good for the person. Even with impact play, sometimes you'll need some, if you are working with a paddle or anything with the desire, to put marks on a person, you have to use, it's great to use some sort of caretaking method, like some salve or some aquaphor on their skin, because so that it can heal properly too. I know it sounds rough and in that instance, but it's an important part of it. And aftercare, it's kind of like taking care of yourself in the moment, because these intimate moments can also spark something from past experience, and understanding how that comes up for you in the moment is important, and how having those conversations around it. So say like in aftercare, if you are trying anything new, aftercare is really important. Having those conversations, like, oh, I had that fantasy, and when we were doing it, it didn't quite work for me. Like, I like it in my head. I don't like it so much when we are playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
So, I say that, as a way of, you can ask for what you want, and then you get it. And if you liked it a lot, or you didn't like it as much, or something could be tweaked, it's good to know. Having that conversation afterwards too.
Right.
To take care of yourself and take care of the other person. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, so the aftercare really is just an element of like after any kind of intimate act that is highly emotionally charged, or may have an element of emotional charge to it. Whether it's within the physical realm or the intellectual or emotional realm, BDSM being the example you gave there, but not the complete picture. Aftercare is what we provide to one another to just give the space to process what just happened, and kind of be more, and just provide that space. So there's intimacy in that. And I think the BDSM example for like, that case where if you are into things like impact play or other kinds of play around dominant submission areas, then it's definitely a necessity. But what I think you're talking about here is that even in the realm of other types of intimacy where there's emotional aspects to it, that aftercare is important. It's like the equivalent of like what we saw in the movies back in the 80s, when they would basically just cut from like that passionate kiss to them laying in bed under the covers and smoking a cigarette.
yeah.
That was kind of like that cigarette was kind of like the aftercare back then.
Yeah, but they didn't talk about
They didn't talk about it though. That's the
well,
thing.
like, oh, he did this wrong and he
Right.
did that wrong. And you're like talking to other people about it, but you don't talk to your partner. That's kind of weird. So,
Yeah. So I guess what we're saying is just like any after that intimacy, especially if you're learning about it and getting into this rhythm, talk about it, process what happened, and be willing to be open and honest. That's how you learn about what worked, what you enjoyed, what didn't. What is connecting. That's part of how you become better partners. I mean, it's the same thing in a business conversation. You're having those conversations with your partner to make sure that you're aligned. All of this is around aligning with the most important partner in your life.
yeah.
So why aren't we having those conversations with the most intimate details of our relationship?
That's why we're talking today
Yes.
about this being a myth.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thought that intimacy is supposed to be automatic,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be the one person who didn't get the memo, do you?
No.
You take it personally. Like, I'm the only person who I'm the bad kisser. Like, I'm the bad kisser.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, that, you are going to take that very personally.
Right.
That's why we're talking about this today, and that's why I'm very passionate about it, is if we take that myth away,
mm-hmm.
doesn't it for you up to be like, oh my gosh, this is a learning experience about the other person and what their needs are.
Yeah,
It's not like I should know this. He should know how I'd like to be touched. We don't need to, like you said, we can't just say it one time what we want.
right, right.
How many times do we need to say it?
We need to say it at least 7 times.
At least 7 times.
Yep. So here's the question before we kind of wrap this topic up. What if, this is all well and great if both parties, both people in the relationship are willing to have these conversations. What if there's one that isn't? And there always is. I mean, there's many occasions where one party is just not wanting or willing to have these conversations.
Yes. Again, I'll go back to curiosity and trying to meet them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
What are they willing to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
What steps forward are they willing to take?
Yeah.
What would make them feel safe? What are their hang-ups about these conversations?
Mm-hmm.
That is getting really super curious. And that's why there's intimacy coaches like
Yeah.
me who you can start opening up. Not for the person who might not open up, but maybe helping the person who wants that, who craves that. That's the one. Those are the people who step into my office.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. That's a great point. It is kind of leading by example, and I think just like any other partnership, we are not therapists here, but there has to be a point too where if one person is committed to a relationship and strengthening it, and one is just simply not, there's a deeper conversation to be had, whether or not it's the right partnership.
Yeah.
And that's a hard conversation to have. But I think to the point of like, if as you're saying, get curious, try and meet that person where they're at, try and find out where they are, so you can see the obstacles, so you can help them to get in touch with it, with whatever it is that they want, and give them that. I think what opened us up to this was this idea that that I just kind of came to terms with. I want to meet some of your fantasies, and you seeing that kind of opened you up to wanting to meet on a weekly basis. And then we started getting it on the schedule.
Yes.
And conversely, when we started getting it on the schedule, you were able to meet me and pull me into the type of intimacy you wanted, which was the physical.
Yes.
And that's how we started to learn more about each other. And that's really what we're talking about here. It all starts with the conversations, about willing to have the conversations. And if you can't have the conversations, you have to ask why the partnership exists in the first place. So I think we've talked about a lot of things regarding intimacy. And if I could tie it in a bow, just kind of summarize, there's specific types of intimacy that we have to consider, about where we fall into, like what our specific flavors are,
Yeah.
intellectual intimacy, physical intimacy, emotional intimacy. We all want to have every single one of those, but in different degrees. Like some start us out, some kind of get us into that mood. Understand yourself first, then understand your partner where they are on that. And then the other part we talked about specifically on here is it's not automatic. Intimacy
Yeah.
does not automatically happen. It's not spontaneous. So find that time, schedule it, put it on your freaking calendar, and make it clear that this is your time. Intentional time for the conversations and for the physical. Yes, schedule sex every week. Here's the thing that we didn't say that happens when you schedule it is it actually gives space to more spontaneity.
Oh, yes.
And because what we found is that when we didn't schedule it and we expected it to always be spontaneous, it rarely happened. And it was rarely enjoyable because spontaneity was at different times for both of us.
Oh, yes.
So when you were feeling spontaneous, I wasn't, and
I
we
felt
didn't connect.
rejected.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened when we scheduled it, like once a week? What happened like once we scheduled, put it on the calendar?
That we started even talking about it too. Of
Yeah.
what we want to.
Right.
What's on the menu for tonight even?
Yeah.
What do you want? Not in the bedroom saying, what do you want?
Right. Because we had the conversation
Yes.
scheduled and we had the actual sex scheduled.
Yeah.
So, but having both of those things scheduled actually opened up space for more spontaneity, because that one experience of having it scheduled once a week, like almost took the pressure off of all of the other times of it having to be spontaneous.
Yeah.
So there was no pressure anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's no pressure, spontaneity happens more frequently.
Yes.
Because then you do get in the moment and you have it. And then we've gone from like earlier on in our marriage when we were having, maybe sex once or twice a month,
Yeah.
to now we have it multiple times a week.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that kind of works.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And then the final thing, the last thing is aftercare, making sure you're having the conversations after the intimate emotional experiences so that you're learning to process and understand those. That's how I understood this conversation. Am I missing anything?
No, I think you did a great job. And just, one more thing. Just remembering that you don't just have one-time conversation with somebody, that you need to express your wants and needs on a regular basis.
Yep.
And stop, he should know what I want, because throw that out the window. Keep expressing yourself. Because maybe sometimes you'll want something different too. And telling them, the other person, that is important. So
That's such a great point. Yep. And consent. The consent discussion never ends either.
Yeah.
Always be talking about that. That's part of that intimacy discussion. Yeah. So now getting into kind of like the core values shout outs that we're doing. So I want to give a shout out to you, especially for this weekend coming off of our quarterly that we had. This is a continuous growth moment for you. So continuous growth is one of our core values.
Yay.
And you certainly live that out in this quarterly by really spending the full day digging in and looking at how we could grow, and you growing into that visionary role in this organization as that like figurehead in what we're building here was like absolutely huge. So I call you out on continuous growth this weekend.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
And I want to call you out on play this weekend, because even though
I found the clitoris.
yeah, we gotta point it out to you. And so you always knock me off.
Sorry, I didn't mean to let go.
That's the aspect of play that
Yeah.
you just exhibit.
Yeah.
Exhibit?
Sure.
Okay. So and just like you always have that cheerful, fun, flowing energy, and also music playing.
Thank
So
you. Yeah.
I love to listen to you play all the time.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So if you want to shout out core values to your spouse, which we believe wholeheartedly that you should both have a set of core values and shout them out to each other. We actually have a weekly connection workbook for entrepreneurial couples who want to carve out some time to strengthen their relationship and build more intimacy, intentional intimacy into their week. If you want to do that, download our free guide, our free workbook. It's in the show notes. It is really the best place to start on this, to really get that nailed down. Get that one meeting on your schedule with your spouse and watch everything else improve as you go. That is the starting point to our Spark framework. And we've got more exciting things to come. In the meantime, please subscribe. Please rate this show and share it with a friend, someone who might want to hear this message. We want to get this message out that for entrepreneurial couples and growth-oriented couples specifically, that if you can strengthen your relationship, you not only live a great life, but you also change the world in the best way possible, in the business that you're building, in the family that you have, in your legacy. Everything gets better when you focus on the relationship that matters the most. So thank you for joining us this week,
Okay.
and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.